Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs. Today I'm sharing with you a very cute, great gift idea, unless of course you would like to keep it for yourself, for a friend or a family member who loves to bake and or cook. I saw these magnets shaped like a mason jar at Hobby Lobby, and I immediately had an idea for them. Let me show you this quick and easy and inexpensive DIY idea to present as a very cute Christmas gift, or as I mentioned previously, perhaps you would like to have it for yourself. Okay, let's get busy creating this project. These are the materials that you will need to create this decor piece. Now, you can create this for Christmas, or you could also create it for year-round. We'll talk about that in a minute. This is actually a magnet. They have two different ones at Hobby Lobby, located in the department with the napkins and the paper plates. And as I mentioned, this is actually a magnet. Even though I'm not really using it as such, I just love the look of it, and I love the information. One is for cooking measurement equivalents, and the other one is substitutions. So I think this is really super cute. They're around 6.5 inches in height. Now, I got this galvanized metal piece at the Crafter Square section at the Dollar Tree. Now I'm going to mount this magnet on this piece. Now, obviously it's going to just stick without even having to glue it, because it's going on galvanized metal and it's a magnet. Okay, so I have a piece of scrapbook paper here. This is a pretty sturdy piece of scrapbook paper. It came from a booklet of Christmas scrapbook papers that I had purchased at Hobby Lobby last year. I only need one single sheet for this project. Now, I do cover the front and the back with that scrapbook paper. So you'll need some Mod Podge and a sponge applicator. Now, you can use glue if you prefer as well. I found that I prefer to glue around the edges just to be sure those didn't lift off of that galvanized metal on that piece that looks like a mason jar. You'll need a pencil, a pipe cleaner, some scissors, and a collection of narrow ribbons, something that you would think you would like to create a bow with. Now, as you can see, this is a magnet. It sticks right onto this piece. So I'm going to get rid of that jute hanger, because I'm going to use a baker's twine for the hanger on this piece. Now, I am creating this as a Christmas piece. Because I'm thinking that this would be something that you could display in your kitchen, hanging on the wall for at least a good month to 6 weeks around the holiday season. Now, like I said, you could do this in a regular everyday scrapbook pattern, just by trying to coordinate it with the look of either one of those magnets. Now, the one magnet does have poinsettias on it, but they almost kind of look like flowers. So you could, just regular flowers. So you could almost get away with just choosing a scrapbook paper year-round one. And you could keep this on your wall, displayed in your kitchen year-round. But that's up to you. Like I said, I'm doing a Christmas piece. So what I did was I placed my galvanized metal mason-looking jar on my scrapbook paper, traced around it with a pencil, and now I'm just cutting it out. Now, I am covering both sides. I do initially place my scrapbook paper down by applying Mod Podge all over. I think this is a good way just to be sure you have a nice smooth application that's going to adhere that scrapbook paper onto that piece. Now, I did go around later, around the edges, like at the top, and I put a little bit of Aleene's tacky glue around there as well, just to hold that, be sure that nothing lifted on the edges of the piece. But I did like the idea of using Mod Podge just to get a nice smooth application of that scrapbook paper on that piece there. So I did the front and the back. Now, if you want, you can use a zip sander or a sanding block if you want to smooth out the edges. Or if you just want to trim them up with scissors, that's fine as well. But if you like to kind of rough up your scrapbook paper around the edges to get a little more of a worn look, that's fine too. So, it's your piece, do what you like. I do have a zip sander, and I did go around mine just a little bit on the edges, just to be sure everything's nice and smooth. I would wait till that's dry before I do that. Okay, I decided on the top of my mason jar that I was going to place some lines to make it look more authentic to the lid of the mason jar. And then after I did that, I started thinking I should paint the lid part of that piece a metallic silver. And so I ended up doing that, and it looked great. And I did, as I painted it, I did let some of those black marker lines show through. Now, I initially did it with a Sharpie marker, and then I did it over again with a little bit of a thicker Sharpie marker. And so I did, when I painted it, I let some of those lines still show through, which looked very nice on that finished painted top of that piece. Now, one other thing that I did before I actually started that painting process was I took my little hook tool. I love these. I get these at the Dollar Tree. I think I have like 5 of them. And curiously, whenever I need one, I never could seem to find one. I don't know what it is, but one of those things when your craft table gets full of too much stuff, which mine tends to get that way. But anyway, so back to the piece. I used my picker tool, and I popped a hole through where the holes are for the hanger. Now, in hindsight or retrospect, I wish I had put my hanger on at this point, but I didn't. But I'm going to recommend that you do it. I used a piece of baker's twine, and I just fed it through the little holes, tied a knot. But you are going to see me do this later. But I'm just mentioning that I think it would be easier to put the hanger on at this point, rather than waiting until after you have on all the embellishments, which is what I did. That's why I say, in retrospect, I wish I would have put the hanger on first, because it was a little tricky, but I managed it anyway. So you don't even have to glue this on. It just sticks right on there. Now, like I said, I did finish the back with scrapbook paper. I also painted the lid portion of that piece in the back, just so it would be totally finished. Now, here's where I'm mentioning that there was a little lifting right on the edges. I went around my piece to see if everything actually adhered well with the Mod Podge, and I found that there were little areas that didn't so much. So I used my Aleene's Tacky Glue. I went around the piece just to be sure everything was well adhered. So far, so good. Looking very cute. All right, now here's my metallic silver paint. Mine was a little bit thick. I think I've had it for like a year, but I actually liked the fact that it was thick. And I took a paintbrush and I began painting along the lines of that lid. And like I said, I did let that black show through, and it added even more definition to the top, which is, of course, the lid of that mason jar. And this ended up looking really, really, really good. I really am glad I did this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in on the front and in the back. If you need 2 coats, apply 2 coats. I found that because my paint was thick, I didn't really need that. But, you know, that's up to you and what your paint consistency is. And here's my silver lid. Doesn't that look awesome? I love it. I love that. Okay, so I am going to do the back as I mentioned. That's what I'm pointing out right there. So, of course, we're going to be embellishing this piece. Now, I gathered together some little bits of greenery. I like using multiple types of greenery whenever I do embellishments. It adds visual interest to the piece. It adds texture and color. So I think like 4 different types of greenery. I also gathered together some pitberry stems and some berries. I wasn't sure if I was going to use them, but you certainly could use them. I don't believe I ended up putting any on there. Now, I'm going to make a very cute, there's the back of that piece. Now you can see I'd finished the lid. Now, I chose these 3 ribbons. I wanted to go with something red to pick up the red in the magnet. I decided on my favorite Christmas ribbon with the polka dots and the peppermint stripe on the back side, a nice little white satin ribbon, and a white ribbon with a red ribbon with white stitching along the edges. Goodness me. Okay, so I left about a 3.5 to 4 inch tail, and I'm going to create a 4-loop bow or 2 loops on each side. I'm going to create it in the same fashion that I always create my bows. I fold over my loops, pinch it in the center, and then I twist my ribbon and fold over the loop on the other side. Now you can see those stripes. I love, love, love this ribbon. This is a Hobby Lobby ribbon. I frequent about 4 different Hobby Lobbies, like on my, travels to work, back from work, near my home, near where I store my RV at a resort. So I pass by 4 different Hobby Lobbies, and I've been in every one of them, and they still have a lot of Christmas stuff. I'm very surprised, but anyway, I saw this ribbon yesterday, so they still had quite a bit of it. So hopefully your Hobby Lobby does as well if you would like to purchase this ribbon. Super cute. 4 loops. I fold over my loops, pinch it in the center, and now I am taking a pipe cleaner. And do you know what I did? Gosh, don't you think I'm crazy? But I think I started over because I went to use this wire that was a little bit stiff. So I said, you know what? Let me back up and start over again. I'm going to place it in the upper left hand. Sorry about that. I'm doing a lot of crafting. Forgive me, okay? I'm doing a lot of crafting. I'm doing wreaths for clients. I am a crazy crafting woman lately. So, that's my excuse. Okay, so I'm going to make this bow again. And this time I'm going to use a pipe cleaner. Okay, so I'm going to fold over my loops, pinch it in the center. I want the polka dot side up. And this time I'm going to wrap a pipe cleaner around it. That wire was just a little bit too stiff. Now, I'm not going to be putting a center on this bow because I decided I am going to embellish the center of my bow with 2 little tiny pine cones. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap my pipe cleaner around this bow and twist very tightly, and I am going to be snipping that off in the back. Now, I am going to use 3 ribbons in this small bow. And yes, it's a small bow. If you want, you can just use one ribbon type. That's up to you. I like to use multiple ribbons for visual interest. To me, it just adds so much to a piece, and I am all about detail because I think that's what makes a piece or breaks it, if you will, is all those little added features that take, yes, an extra few minutes to do, but so worth it. Okay, so I am going to sandwich a white satin ribbon. This is a little bit more of a narrow ribbon, but that's okay. You can mix narrow with a ribbon that's a little bit wider. So I'm going to create a figure 8 bow this time. So what essentially I'm doing is just creating figure 8s with my ribbon, and then I hold it in the center of the 8. So I created this bow, and I am going to do 3 loops on each side instead of 2. The reason for that is because it's a very narrow ribbon. And again, I'm going to take a pipe cleaner after I finish this last figure 8, and I'm going to wrap it around the center, and this bow is going to be layer number 2 of my triple ribbon bow that's going to go at the top of this piece. So I take a small pipe cleaner and I wrap it around nice and tight, and in the back I'm just going to give it a couple of twists, and this too, the tails will be trimmed off in order for that bow to be flush, one bow upon another once I go to stack them. I am just going to be gluing these bow layers together. I do that often with my very small bows like this. But this ribbon, or this bow at the top of this piece, really, really adds a lot to it. So I'm taking my time here and creating a very cute bow to go on this piece. And again, that was a satin ribbon. You could choose any ribbons that you like. And you can choose different widths if you like. You could do just 2 different types of ribbon if you want. If you do just a single ribbon, I would create maybe an extra loop on each side, and then that will give it a little bit more fullness. All right, my top bow is going to be with this narrow red ribbon. It has white stitching going down the sides. I absolutely love it. I think it's very suitable for this piece. And I'm going to do figure 8 bows, or figure 8 loops on this one as well. I'm going to make my loops just a little bit smaller because this is the bow layer that's going to be sitting right on top. Pinch it in the center. Just creating figure 8s. That's exactly what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to take, I think I took a little piece of red pipe cleaner and wrapped it around super tight around the middle of that bow and twist really, really tight in the back. And this also is going to have the tails trimmed off. And then I'm just going to stack those one on top of another. Now, if you decide to do this piece in an everyday scrapbook paper, you can choose your ribbons, of course, to coordinate with your scrapbook paper, whatever the pattern might be. I think this piece would be cute in a scrapbook paper that's a polka dot, or maybe even like a vertical stripe, something like that. But I could see making this piece into an everyday piece that you could keep on the wall in the kitchen year-round. You have to be clever in how you do it so it no longer looks Christmassy. But I think it's like a really cute piece. All right, so I'm stacking my bows now. One on top of another, that polka dot on the bottom. I'm going to use hot glue for this. Pop it, a little bit of glue right there in the center. And I place my bow right down in there. Now you can adjust everything once you have it all together as far as shaping the loops. But I'm also going to advise, this is a little trick that I do whenever I do this process where I glue little narrow bows one on top of another. I take my needle nose pliers and I place them right down the center and I squeeze it really, really tight. This really compresses the pipe cleaner that I used, or if you use wire, it does the same for that. And it just really creates a nice flush application of one bow on top of another, and it reduces the bulk of all of those ribbons placed one on top of another. Because you don't want that bulky look. You want it to be as flat there in the center as possible. So the needle nose pliers is a great trick to use for that. Now you're going to be pulling all of your tails down, and those of course can be arranged as you like them on the piece once you have it on the piece. And again, I'm not putting anything in the center of this bow. Usually I put a loop or some type of embellishment, and in this case I am definitely going to do that. I have two little tiny pine cones. Now you could put whatever you want in the center of this. If you wanted to put a jingle bell, or if you want to do it for winter, you could put, if you had a little tiny little poinsettia, you could put it in the center there, being that it has poinsettias on the top. Actually, they are poinsettias, but they look kind of like regular flowers. That's why I thought that perhaps you could make this for every day. And the same thing with the other one. It has, I believe, a red and white gingham check ribbon. I showed you that when I showed you the materials. But they have two different ones. And again, it's in the department with the paper plates and the Christmas napkins and 50% off. I think it was $4.99. So, I mean, you're talking like a very inexpensive, very cute item for, what, $2.50? Okay, so initially I was going to put my bow with the tails pointing outward. And I actually went so far as to glue it down like that. And then I said, yeah, no, that's not the way I want it. And I ended up turning the tails, picking the bow off, and then reapplying it with hot glue. You're going to see me do that here in a minute. But it's a crafter's prerogative to change their mind, right? I made a change of mind. Now I'm looking to see what my pine cones are going to look like once I place them on there. I was going to do just one pine cone, and then I decided on two. One pointing a little bit upward, the other one pointing a little bit downward. Here comes the hot glue on the upper left-hand side, and I went ahead and I glued down my bow. And I looked at it, and I looked at it, and yeah, decided to change it. I'm going to trim up my tails here in just a minute. You could just go so many different ways with this piece as far as what ribbons you use. That magnet has some blue in it, which I kind of would rather it hadn't had any blue in it. But if you could play on that color if you decided to do this piece. And you could use some ribbon to kind of pick up the blue in that magnet. Or if you did this piece for every day, you could use a scrapbook paper that picks up the blue in that magnet. I actually think you could create this for every day. You're going to have to be, you know, choosy about what papers you use and what ribbons you use. But yeah, but so you see that bow just did not look right like that. So it's coming off. And you could tell here I'm like not digging it at all. So there it goes. And I'm going to turn it inward. And I liked it so much better like that. So here comes another blob of hot glue. And that's the way it looks good. The next thing I'm going to do is apply my greenery. And this is when this piece really starts taking a really finished, very pretty shape, if you will. Adding that greenery in the different textures and the different colors. And the pine cones, just really took on a really beautiful look when I began doing that. Okay, so much happier with that bow now. I angled the tails of my ribbons. I would not dovetail this, not these narrow ribbons like this. I would just angle them if I were you. If I were you, but you do you, whatever you like to, what do you like to do with your tails? Okay, so now I'm beginning to apply my greenery. Now you could do a dry run, place it down. I always kind of recommend that, especially if you're new to embellishing pieces. But sorry, I'm a little out of frame there. I was just poking some greenery on the top there. Sometimes I just have to see what I'm doing, and that means lifting the piece up and hoping I'm still in frame. Okay, so we're back. So I used a bunch of different types of greenery, as I mentioned. Now, I like some of my greenery actually coming off the piece, like that. Super pretty coming off the edge. And then even at the top, I did the same thing, having my greenery coming up from the top of the bow. I'm looking at that blue there. I know exactly what I was thinking. I was wishing it wasn't blue, but it was. I even thought about taking a paintbrush and just kind of dry brushing a little bit over the blue, which I think could have worked, but I ended up just kind of leaving it alone. All right, now I'm going to place my pine cones on here. And I have two very small pine cones. One's really small and the other one's small. So I don't just poke it in the center, poking upward. I place it pointing upward and then the other one pointing downward. Now, by the way, if you have to lift up your magnet on that galvanized metal piece, what I used and I found to be helpful to lift it is really on there with the magnet, let me tell you. As I just take my little hook tool from the Dollar Tree and I just lifted up the edge. If you need to adjust it at all, reposition it at all on the piece once you get your embellishments on there. Now, when I place my greenery on, I lift up the loops of my bow and I poke it down there all the way down to where the base of the ribbon is, or base of the bow. And as you go along, hold your piece up and look and make sure that you're getting everything balanced and symmetrical. I thought I was going to use some pit berries. I even coiled a piece up and I thought I was going to make one of those like little curly pieces with the pit berries to put in there. But I decided ultimately that the 5 different types of greenery and the pine cones was really enough. Now, here comes the pine cones. Now, I am thinking that this would be the cutest gift for someone you know that likes to cook and or bake. I think this would be just the most awesome little gift. Even you could make this and put it on top of, if you have another gift that you're giving, put it on top of the gift box, as a part of a decorative touch to the top of your gift. Or I just think it's just cute, just like it is. And, just to give as it is alone, just on its own. It's just super, super cute. You could pop it in a gift bag, and it'd be a great gift if you know someone who could really use that information. Sometimes you just want to know what equivalents are, Sometimes it's just that way. And I'm loving this piece. I have the pine cones on now. Finished up with some very tiny little bits of greenery that has like a snowy effect that I had gotten at the Dollar Tree. I absolutely love this greenery. And I can't believe I'm saying that because I'm usually not a fan of Dollar Tree florals. But this greenery, I have used it and used it and used it. So I'm sticking little tiny bits. And yes, these are little details that take time, but they make such a difference. Now, I'm just putting my embellishments on, my greenery on, just with hot glue, and that will suffice. That will be just fine. I wouldn't be storing something like this in a hot attic. I always say, not your wreaths, not your ornaments, not a piece like this. Not in a hot attic, because the hot glue, everything just melts and falls apart. Bad idea. Okay, so here we have our piece, and I think it is so cute. Now I'm going to put the hanger on. Now, like I said, I wished I would have done this in the first place. Look how pretty that greenery looks at the top of there. I tell you that this was just the real finishing touch on this piece. So now I have to go through the process of trying to get this baker's twine, which is a red and white baker's twine. I think this looks really great on this piece. You could as well use a little jute twine. I don't think that I mentioned that aside from the magnet, you could virtually do this piece just from items from the Dollar Tree. I, of course, got my pieces elsewhere, but and except for, of course, the scrapbook paper. Now, that would be Michael's or Hobby Lobby. But for a lot of the items on here, the ribbons, the greenery, the galvanized metal piece, the twine, all that you could get at the Dollar Tree. The Sharpie marker. I mean, you could go on and on. Okay, so I am going to try and feed this baker's twine through this little hole. And I've tried to do it without the painter's tape, and then I got smart and I put a little piece of painter's tape on there. I'm feeding my twine through the back to the front, and I'm going to tie a little knot. I think it hangs better if you do it this way. I'm going to make a little knot. I'm just going to secure that little knot with a touch of hot glue so it doesn't come back through the hole. And then I'm going to put that twine through the other side. And I didn't make you watch me do that because I was struggling. So I finally got it through though, and all is well. And I really love the way that baker's twine looks, hanging that very cute Christmas decor piece for the kitchen. Okay, and here you have the finished piece. Tell me what you think of this one in the comments. I love it, as I said, and I hope you feel inspired to make one. If you are not currently a subscriber to my channel, I hope you'll consider becoming one. And as well, if you appreciate this tutorial and this very cute DIY project, let me know in the comments, and also give this video a thumbs up. One last look at it hanging up. Who do you know that would appreciate this very cute DIY gift? And especially special because you created it. Okay, until next time, you all take care.